All right, and we're back, and we're about to dive into our final mocktail of the day. But you may have noticed that Aaron has not been measuring stuff. He's a master mixologist. A lot of us aren't. So if you want to get the full recipe, as always, they will be in the links in the description below, so you can make all of today's mocktails anytime you like. All right. Now, what is the final mocktail that we are going to make?
Our final one is one of my favorites, and it's probably the, I would say, most peculiar out of the batch.
Okay.
And the reason is we're introducing an interesting ingredient to some pretty familiar ingredients. This is a really good end of summer cocktail. I mean, if you could picture like a white linen shirt drying on a clothesline on a farmhouse, that's kind of the inspiration for this. So it's fresh watermelon juice, it's fresh grapefruit, a little bit of citrus for some bite, and then the interesting ingredient is a tomato leaf elixir.
Okay.
Now, tomato, watermelon, grapefruit might not seem like what you would normally pair in a refreshing cocktail, but there's some interesting scientific reasons they go well together. If you ever, and you can remember kind of picking a tomato right out of the garden and you smell it, and you smell that really, really pungent fresh tomato smell, I love that smell. And so mixing that kind of tomatoey, gardeny, red fruit aromatic with some sweetness from the watermelon and the tartness from the citrus, it makes it really complex. It makes it a very kind of adult beverage, but it also has this great end of summer refreshing watermelon kick to it.
All right, that sounds wonderful already.
Let's try a little of that. So we're going to start with some fresh watermelon juice. You can buy watermelon juice, but really nothing compares to fresh watermelon juice. And there's a number of ways to do this. You can do it in a blender, you can do it with a juicer. We're also going to add a little bit of grapefruit. Grapefruit is great because it's a citrus, so it has acidity, and once again, acidity is really important for balance. But grapefruit also has some bitterness and some astringency, and so that helps give it, or steers us away from the bubbly juice kind of problem that you can run into when trying to make mocktails. And finally, a little bit of lemon juice to give it a little bit more acidity too. And once again, acidity is just that lip smacking, that balance, and that's really important. So the tomato leaf elixir, it really, if you smell, that smells just like tomatoes out of the garden.
Yes, it does.
So I'm going to put 5 drops in. You can play around with it and figure out exactly how much tomato flavor you want in yours. I like mine a lot. This is also something that you could put in savory drinks like virgin or alcoholic Bloody Marys.
Nice.
Okay, so we're going to chill that down. Now, you could drink this just like this and it would be pretty good, but what's going to really make it come alive, what's really going to give it the brightness and the texture and the liveliness in your mouth, and also bring some of that tomato leaf aromatic, is our good friend the Siphon there.
All right.
So we're going to carbonate this drink, and that will give us the texture and the brightness that we're really looking for. So that's nice and chilled down. And that's just like a really pretty color too.
It really is. And I think for people who are excited to try these products, are there any general guidelines that you would recommend to them in terms of, okay, which one should I pair with what? I think that's always the big question. How do I use it?
That's a great question. And the first thing I'll say is there are no wrong answers. If you were playing with something like lemon juice, you can add too much lemon juice and it won't taste good, or you can add not enough. When you're talking about aromatics, if you have a good base, like a good foundation of sweet and sour, you can add anything you want, and it's never going to be gross.
All right.
And I think you can think about it in terms of what might grow next to each other in a garden or in a place, and what might you pair if you were cooking in your kitchen. You know, like before when we paired the baking spices with some berry fruit, that might not be intuitive for a mocktail or a cocktail, but if you're baking a pie, absolutely, you're going to probably put vanilla in it. So we're also going to add just a little bit of water before we carbonate it, just a touch. Just make it a little bit lighter. If you've never had sparkling watermelon juice, you're in for a real treat. I mean, I'm sure you have, but
I love watermelon juice.
that is one of my favorite things.
Usually I don't like to add grapefruit to things, but this looks delicious, so I'm excited to try it.
And even if you don't like grapefruit, if you can just put a little bit in, and you won't even necessarily taste the grapefruit that strongly, but the sourness will come through it and will give a nice balance. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, in order to get the most carbonation absorbed, we're going to use one charger. And then we're going to release the excess carbon dioxide and charge it one more time. And this will make it really fresh and bubbly. And since it's cold, it will absorb quite a bit of carbonation. Release it one more time. Right. There we go. Right. And I'm just going to add a couple lone ice cubes to make sure that it doesn't get warm as we're sipping it outside. And this one does not have an aromatic mist, but we are going to garnish it with a little bit of fresh grapefruit. And what we're going to do is just take the skin part of the grapefruit and rub it around the outside of the glass. And drop it in, just like that.
Ooh.
And there you go.
Cool. You do get like a little whiff of tomato in there. This one's really good too. I'm sounding like a broken record, but I wish I can just drink all of these right now. So these are super good. Well, thank you so much, Erin, for showing us these new recipes. And if you stick around next week, we are going to be coming back with Erin again in order to do our part 2 episode all about how do you use mist and elixirs in cocktails. So definitely stick around for that. And from here in the Modernist Pantry Test Kitchen, I'm Janie Wang. Now you say your name.
I'm Aaron Wisniewski from Alice and the Magician. Thanks for having me, Janie.
Click one of the cards here to see another recipe.